Hello, and in today's video, ahead of Game Week 2, we are doing a buy, remove, hold, and ignore video. That's right, ahead of Game Week 2, there are 10 more fixtures to sink our teeth into, which include the likes of Manchester City versus Bournemouth, Tottenham Hotspur away to Chelsea, and Wolves hosting Fulham. But, my friends, who are we going to be bringing in for Game Week 2? Well, we'll be hearing all about my transfer news and activity ahead of Game Week 2 in the preview video that will be coming out on the deadline this Saturday. It's 11 o'clock, don't miss it, with Villa against Everton being the first game of the game week. But in this video, I thought I'd do a buy, remove, hold, ignore video for those people that are thinking about their transfers, looking at the Game Week 2 fixtures and wondering who to move on and who to bring in. So let's kick off with the buy. And I'm not going to say Erling Haaland just because it's too obvious. If you've got Harry Kane right now and you did the move quick to Haaland, it is so logical because Kane, as good as he is, he's got Chelsea Game Week 2. We'll have to see with Spurs in terms of will Son and Kane get back in the goals. They were brilliant against Southampton, Tottenham, but let's see. City are just so much better at the minute. And ultimately, I look at Haaland and think he's just essential at home to Bournemouth. If you didn't do it and you still haven't done it because you currently own Kane, then I'm afraid you're going to have to take a hit to bring in Haaland because Haaland's gone up by 0.1 to 11.6 million and Kane's gone down by 0.1 to 11.4. So it's a really tricky one because of the price changes that happened on Monday. So you've got to be aware of the price changes, and that is the most logical transfer this game week. But for me, not the most, but one of the best possible calls for this game week, funnily enough, is not Kulusevski because of the fact he has Chelsea, which could be a tricky fixture. Instead, I think a player you should be bringing in ahead of Game Week 2, and it's a very interesting one because of the fact that we don't usually think of this player as, always an FPL option, right? We're going right to the bottom of this list, and you're thinking by now, hang on, what's going on here? But genuinely, I back this decision, and I think that it really could pay off. If you're looking at points for Game Week 2 alone, then it might just be worth the gamble. So that gamble, my friends, is to bring in Jamie Vardy. Now, I know what you're going to say. He's a very awkward price point, and Leicester aren't looking great at the minute. They did just score 2 goals. Vardy returned with an assist, and look who he's got next. You might look at it and say, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United, tough fixtures, but that is what is brilliant about Jamie Vardy. However old he gets, he still always scores against the big six, and he loves playing against Arsenal. Now, Arsenal last week against Crystal Palace, defensively, they were pretty good, but that was just a poor performance, in my opinion, from Crystal Palace. So Leicester will definitely go to the Emirates and give them a game. Vardy loves scoring the Arsenal. And then beyond that, Southampton looked so defensively poor against Tottenham. Chelsea, they're not exactly, squeaky clean either after how bad they've been in pre-season, and they've just not been able to get transfers through the door that they would have wanted, like Koundé, for instance. So I honestly think that those fixtures, and look how bad Manchester United are right now, so they're not even as bad as people make out. Brighton and Villa after that, you just can't go wrong with Jamie Vardy. He's a staple of the Premier League, and yes, it's a tricky price point, but honestly, I think it's worth the gamble. At 4.8% owned, he's a great differential, and I think over these next kind of coming game weeks, he could be explosive. So he is my buy for this game week. I thought it'd be a bit interesting. I'd shake it up and not just say everyone's pick for this game week, because ultimately we know who the good assets are, like your Haalands, like your Salahs, like your Cancelos and your Trents. But at the same time, it's boring if everyone goes for the same player, and I honestly think Jamie Vardy is about to pop off. Now, let's move on to our remove player for this game week. And for me, it's quite a simple one. Again, I could say Harry Kane, but that's just too obvious. I mean, you should have all reason, if you're not feeling Erling Haaland, which, in my opinion, why wouldn't you? But if you honestly believe that Harry Kane, which he probably can score against Chelsea. He's done it in the past plenty of times before. Then don't take out Kane for the sake of it. If you don't believe in Haaland, or let's say you had a freemium team and you already had Kane and Haaland, there is no reason to take out Harry Kane, because the only thing I would say is he was dropping deeper against Southampton, and that's not where we want him to be playing. Obviously, we want him in the box and getting on the end of chances. But that's the thing about Harry Kane now. He's turned into more of than just a striker and a goal scorer. He's turning into a creator. So we want him to be higher up in that kind of penalty box. But he is still an elite FPL asset from previous seasons. So just stick with him if you feel like it. But genuinely, I think this player has to go in Game Week 2. And the reason I say this is because I just don't think he is, as an asset, worth it right now. And that is Mason Mount. Now, I've seen a lot of people discussing Mason Mount. I honestly believe that if you have him right now, there is just as much plausibility in keeping him than there is selling him. But despite that, I'm still going to say he's my player you should be removing this game week. The reason I say that is the way he was playing out of position against Everton was quite worrying. He was playing on the right, which is not going to suit his FPL points potential. And it's a tricky fixture. As much as Tottenham, looked brilliant last week, do I still think they're defensively perfect? I don't think they're the finished article for sure. And ultimately, Mason Mount, he had a couple of shots against Everton, but he really wasn't as involved, I think, as a lot of people thought they would be. So, because of the rich choice you can have at that 8 million price bracket, for me, the weakest 8 million right now, apart from maybe Riyad Mahrez, is Mason Mount. The reason I say Mahrez is because as much as it would be logical for him to start this game week after him not playing against West Ham, I just don't want to bet against Pep Guardiola because we know what he's done before. If Mahrez is, from rumours and from team news, looking to start, then at home to Bournemouth, for sure. If you've not tripled up on City, you could go for it if you think he's going to play. But it's a big if. And then in terms of the other 8 mil, City players, you look at Foden. I just don't know about Foden, how much of an explosive asset he is. And for me, I would prefer the triple up with City in their defence and then Haaland. So I honestly think it's between a City midfielder, it's a Luis Diaz, or it's probably a Kulusevski. But as I say with the fixture, this is not the right game week to bring in Kulusevski. So for me, it's between Diaz and, I guess, Saka. Home to Leicester, Saka looked quite good in the game against Palace, but I just feel right now that at this point in time, Liverpool, the third asset, is very kind of up in the air. You could say it's Diaz, you could say it's Robbo, or you could even say it's Nunez, but we don't think Nunez is going to start all the time. As good as he is, Firmino often starts, and Nunez is that player that can come on and cause chaos. So I think, for me, I would stick with Salah, stick with Trent, who are brilliant assets, and move on Mason Mount to someone like a Diaz if you think he's going to haul big. The thing I would say with Diaz owners, if you own him right now, definitely keep, because he was desperately unlucky against Fulham, hit the crossbar, hit the post, had a goal that he scored which went offside. So he's getting close, just not quite close enough. But for me, the best 8 million midfielder for this week would be Bukayo Saka against that Leicester defence that are very leaky at the moment. Okay, that's my remove then. Sorry, Mason. I just don't think that you are offering enough attacking upside. I think even Reece James is a better option in terms of attacking upside than Mason Mount. You could look at that fixture in Game Week 3 against Leeds, but even then, I just think Mason Mount often fails to flatter and fails to really deliver on the amount of expected points he might get. Like, he could definitely return, I believe that, but I don't think he's going to return as big as you would want him to, really. Let's move on to the hold for this game week, and for me, this is a very, very easy one, and that's Gabriel Jesus. Now, the reason I say Gabriel Jesus is because you could look at that ownership for Gabriel and think, well, that's an easy decision. He blanked Game Week 1, he's so highly owned, and I'm not even going to get any kind of rank gain if he even scores. So I might as well quit while I'm ahead and sell. And that's actually what a lot of people have done. Going into Game Week 1, I'm pretty sure his ownership was around 75%. and I think it got as high as 77% during Game Week 1. It's now dropped down to 71.6%. And I think because of the fact his ownership is so high, people have got this expectation that he's now, like a Haaland or a Salah, like he's a premium asset, and that we all expect him to deliver every week because he's so highly owned. We really can't look at it like that. He's a new striker in terms of he's never played in this system before at Arsenal. You can say that with Haaland, but obviously Haaland's one of the best strikers in the world. But ultimately with Jesus, I just think it's worth giving him time because the fixtures are so good for so long for Arsenal that he can still get big hauls against good fixtures. It's just a matter of clicking, and I don't think he's far away. I think he still played well against Palace, and his next two against Leicester and Bournemouth are certainly opportunities for a lot of goals. So if you sold him now, in my opinion, it would be a mistake. So hold Jesus. And my final tip for this video is ignore. And these are the kind of players who I think you just shouldn't even go anywhere near. And people could be saying you should be bringing them in. But honestly, I don't think it's worth it. I think you would be very, very silly to bring in this player. And for me, that player is a defender. And you might think, well, defenders aren't that much of an issue. They're not essential to bring in, or they're not really going to rip up any trees. But it's quite an easy one for me this game week. And, you might think, oh, that's just not even a good call because he did so well last week. But let me just tell you something, right? He is not going to get any points this game week. Well, when I say any points, I mean he's not going to haul as much as he did last game week. And that is Fabian Schär. Now, of course, he can score spectacular goals. We've seen it in the past. But people are thinking that Botman will start ahead of Schär against Brighton and play alongside Dan Burn against his former team. So therefore, as good as that goal from Fabian Schär was, it was a bit of a fluke. He averages about 1 goal, 2 goals a season. So that's probably one of his goals done for the season. So he's not going to haul every week. Newcastle, as good a defence they have been, I just don't think it's worth now bringing in a Newcastle defender this late. Because you've got to remember they play Man City in Game Week 3 and Liverpool in Game Week 5. So for me, he's a big avoid. Because even Brighton, who, admittedly on the paper would think, okay, Brighton is a good fixture for a clean sheet compared to the other teams in the league. But I was so impressed by Brighton at Old Trafford that I actually think they're going to do well against this Newcastle team. Whether that's well enough to kind of win the game, I don't know. But I think Newcastle, as good as a defence they are now under Eddie Howe. I've just combined Eddie Howe and Steve Bruce there. As good as a defence as Newcastle are, I think with how brilliant Brighton were last week, I think they could get on the score sheet. So therefore, a Newcastle defender might not even be worth it this game week. So honestly, I think Fabian Schär is an avoid and an ignore for this game week 2. So that wraps up my video. If we just want to quickly run over the players, just to remind you. So you're looking at the transfer page ahead of that Saturday 11 o'clock deadline. You're thinking, oh, there are some saucy options. There are some really good options. And I don't know who to go with. Who should I go with? Well, it's very, very easy for me. And that is that right now, at this point in time, he should come in for Mason Mount. But mainly, the main one to remember is, of course, the man, the myth, the legend. No, I'm joking. Mason Mount, sorry, mate, you've got to go. You've got to go for me. And we also said with Schär, it's a flash in the pan, in my opinion. I don't think it's one to commit to right now. So yeah, hope you have enjoyed my video. Obviously, Haaland is a must. Lock him in your teams, everyone, if you can. And enjoy Game Week 2. It's going to be a good one. Hope you have enjoyed the video. If you have, smash a like on it. Comment down below who are your buy, remove, hold and ignore players for Game Week number 2. I'll see you in the next one. And I'll see you for my Game Week 2 team selection preview for the next match week. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.